Hi, and welcome to another video on Spline Kit Pro. Today we're going to talk about how to trigger events along the spline. Today's going to be pretty basic. We're just going to cover a couple of the event types. We're going to slow this car down, maybe speed him back up, and maybe kick up a particle. There's a lot more things that we're going to talk about with regard to triggering events. They're going to come in some future videos. They're a bit more involved. Things like how to send a message to multiple game objects in the scene, how to script your own events, how to use animation curves to control the motion of your game object along the spline, basically so that you can sync up footsteps, things like that, so it looks good. But today we're just going to talk about basically how do you place a trigger on the spline, how does it get kicked off, and how to put it in. So if you were with us when we did our rotation blend node video, you may recognize this scene. We just have a car that's on a spline going around a little track here. And over here he does a little drift where we set up these rotation nodes. And let's just hit play, take a look at what it looks like currently. Just look at the scene view. You can see he just goes around the track, and he does a little drift there. Now, looks okay, but we'd probably look better if he slowed down and maybe kicked up a particle there. So that's what we're going to do today, is just add that around this corner. And let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is, since I'm going to be placing nodes in the same place where this rotation node is, we're just going to kind of turn those off, so to speak. We're just going to set this rotation handle size down to 0. Okay. Now you can still see where this rotation happens, right? There's the start there and where the blend kicks in, because it's still color coded. But what this allows you to do is, if you're adding other nodes in the same region, you don't get those rotation handles in the way, and it's just makes it easier to work with. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's add a trigger node here. And to do that, we're just going to come over here to our add nodes and slide this T value, which moves this little red box along the spline. And let's put it right around where this drift starts. All right, we'll put it maybe at the start rotation there. And we'll just hit add trigger node, and it adds us a trigger node there. Now if we look over here at the trigger node in the inspector, we got a couple of options here. We got direction. You can set this to both forward or reverse. So if it's both, if he's going forward, he'll trigger it. If he's going in reverse, he'll trigger it. Or you can just set it to forward, so he'll only hit it when he's going forward, or reverse, he'll only hit it when he's going reverse. Our car is only moving forward, so it doesn't really matter. We'll just leave it as both. And the next one here, this T value, allows you to move the trigger along the spline even after you've already placed it, so it's not set in stone. If you didn't get it in the right place, or you need to adjust it later, you can do that. I think ours is in the right place, so we're just going to leave it there. Okay, and now we need to add a command, right? We need to tell it to slow down. So we'll just come over here to commands and hit this little plus button over here, which adds us a command. We'll open that up, and you'll see we have this ID here. And if we look at that, we've got a bunch of commands that we can use. Let's just quickly talk about these top two, set active and set run. Set active will set your active flag on your game object, so it can set active to false and turn it off, and turn it back on. You may not want to always use that, because if you set something active and you have something in your code or whatever that's looking for that game object, Unity doesn't like to find things that are inactive. So another option is to use set run, which is for the animator component. If you set run to false, it will stop animating along the spline. And if you set it to true, it will start animating again. So I just briefly wanted to cover those two. And the next one, though, is set speed, which is what we want to do here. We want to slow him down, so let's use that one. And if we take a look at that, we've got a few options here. Inherit speed. This means that when we hit this trigger, if this is checked, we'll keep its current speed and just change the acceleration. You can see it's not selected here, so it has a speed parameter. that would be an absolute speed that when you hit it, it would set it to that speed immediately, and then you could still control the acceleration if you wanted to. In our case, we want to inherit the speed because we just want to slow it down. We don't want to just change its speed instantly. So you'll notice that when I check that, that speed parameter goes away because we're just going to control the acceleration here. Okay, so we want to slow it down, so we're going to give it a negative acceleration. We'll use a negative 100. These are numbers I've already just come up with for the scale and my scene here. So yours may be different on how, depending on how you have it set up. Okay, so we're just going to decelerate here, and you'll notice that we have a minimum speed here. If this was an acceleration, a positive acceleration, right, it would be a max speed. But we're decelerating. So this minimum speed means that you'll decelerate until you hit this speed, and then you won't decelerate anymore. So we want to make that 60 in our case, like that. All right, now let's just go ahead and take a look at this. I have this little script here that I'll turn on, which makes it so it doesn't switch to the game view, which just makes it easier when you're kind of debugging this. So that's all that is. So let's just play this. And here he goes. So he hits this and slows down. And now you see he never speeds back up because we don't have anything to speed him up yet. So that's how that works. Okay. So now let's go ahead and speed him back up. So we'll go in here and we'll add another trigger node. Let's put it about right, maybe there, right around the curve there. And add trigger node, and let's come in here and add a command to slow him down. Set speed, excuse me, not slow him down, speed him up. So we're going to do the opposite, give him an acceleration here, and a max speed of, let's say 135. Okay, and just mention this really quick, this delay here, that's just a delay on the command. So if you add a delay, it's in seconds, it will fire that command off, you know, in the future after that many seconds. So we don't want to use it here, but that's okay. And you'll notice I actually did this wrong. I was just typing and didn't really look at what I was doing. So again, we want to inherit the speed and use an acceleration of 100 and to a max speed of 135. There, that's better. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how that looks. You may notice that he starts off slow over here, and well, we'll talk about that in a minute. So you can see he hits the first trigger node, slows down, hits the next one, speeds back up. Okay. So what I was just talking about just there was, I just wanted to point out that you may have noticed when I start this, he doesn't start off at a constant speed, he accelerates, and that could have been set up on a trigger node, but it's not, because it's just the start. That's where we have it set up here on the car. We have his speed set to be 135, excuse me, if we stop it, okay, he starts off at 0, has an acceleration of 35, and accelerates to 135. So that's where that comes from, in case you were wondering. Okay, so now we have him decelerating and accelerating, which is what we wanted. One more thing that we could do to make this look a little bit better is have him kick up some dust. So let's go ahead and do that. Now we'll just go back to our first trigger node that we placed, and you'll notice that we can add another command here. So you can add as many commands as you like to a trigger node. You can also remove them. There's a little minus button right here, so you can remove it. So now this one, we want to kick up a dust particle. So let's go ahead and come to this command here, instantiate prefab. So this will instantiate the prefab in your scene, and I already have it over here. I'm going to take this car dust and just drag it right in there. Okay, and then our next field is a transform. So this is where we want to spawn this prefab or our particle. And you'll notice that you've got two choices for that. You can either parent it to the transform. so that it follows it, or you can just set it to be just a straight locator and have it just be spawned there and not move. In our case, we want it to move with the car, so we're going to parent it, and I already have a locator here set up under the car, this dust locator, which you can see is just right here in back of the car. Okay, so we've added that. And then this next field here is destroy after so many seconds. So if you leave it at 0, it won't be destroyed. But if you need it to be destroyed, which we do in our case, you can set a delay here to destroy it. And we're going to put 3 seconds. And there we go. And let's just hit play and see how it looks. And there he goes, and he kicks up his little dust particle there. So, and let's just turn this off so you can see it from another angle. See how it looks here, kind of from the a down low perspective. Here it comes, kicks up the dust, takes back off, right? So he slows down, speeds back up. So there you have it. Basically how to add some trigger nodes to control some speed and instantiate some particles. Again, we'll talk about more complicated stuff in some future videos. But if you have any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to hit me up at splinekit@gmail.com. Spline Kit's just one word. Anything you want, just let me know. I'll see if I can answer it, maybe incorporate it in another video, something like that. So I'm happy to do that. Hope you found this video useful, and thanks for watching.